Christ's letters. Continuation of letter 3. Without this foundation, people will continue to flounder in religious myths and will be locked into the misery of the human condition. When I was on earth, I spoke truth to the people, but it was continually misinterpreted. What I really said regarding faith was this. You see this great big tree. It has grown out of the tiniest seed imaginable. See the vast trunk and branches and foliage. All that enormous growth has come out of a small seed. How did such a thing come about? From whence came all the wood in the tree and the foliage which adorns it? Is it not this as much a miracle as are the miracles I perform for you day after day? Is not the growth of this tree as much the work of the Father as the healing which takes place in sick people? I ask you, what is a seed? Can you tell me? No, you cannot, but I will tell you. It is a tiny entity of consciousness knowledge. It is the consciousness knowledge of what it will become. It is a fragment of consciousness drawn from divine creative consciousness. It is a fragment of mind power drawn from the Father mind power, which when planted in the earth and watered by rain, will begin to clothe itself with the visible matter of which it possesses knowledge, deep within itself. This knowledge is true, it is firm, it is strong and undeviating. This self-knowledge embodied in the seed is a conviction in consciousness. All of life forms arise out of this one-pointed self-knowledge, a conviction in consciousness. This conviction in consciousness is what separates the inanimate soil and rocks from all that lives and grows upon the face of the earth. Where there is no conviction of consciousness or knowledge of identity, there is no growth. The consciousness within soil and rocks remains consciousness in a dormant form. Therefore, if you could believe in what you ask for, as powerfully as does a mustard seed know its own identity, you would be able to do anything you wanted to do. If you could carry within your mind a seed, the perfected plan of your most heartfelt goals, and know beyond all doubt that it can grow and come into perfect fruition, you would see this wonderful seed take on a life of its own, which would presently manifest in yourself. And you could surely move the mountains in your lives, those mountains which stand across your path and prevent you from achieving all that you would like. Mountains which, in times of recklessness and evil thinking, have been created by yourselves. If you only understood creation and existence, you would be able to live lives of total freedom, limitless achievement, and transcendent joy. Seek to understand, and you will find that little by little, understanding will come to you. Knock on the door of the universe, giving access to God, the universal Father consciousness, and eventually you will find the door swinging open and you will have entrance to the secrets of the world. Only believe and you will receive. I also reminded them at all times, only those with pure minds and hearts will accomplish these mighty things. The wicked may flourish for a while, as have kings and marauding armies, and others hoarding iniquity in their minds. They have been permitted to do their work for a while, since certain good would also arise out of the evil. But eventually they will fail, and their names are reviled by the rest of the world. Therefore, as many of you as would succeed, examine your motivations. Desires born solely of selfish longing for wealth or comfort eventually end in disappointment, sickness, and death. And I say to you who read these words, let no one dare to deny the truth I speak until they too have walked the path of self-renunciation, which I walked on earth and reached the same union with the Father and the heights of incontrovertible knowledge and understanding as I possessed. When you have achieved all this, you will no longer have any desire to deny the truth I speak to you, but will be unable to restrain yourselves from joining me in teaching your fellow men. Until that time, hold your peace and let no man know your ignorance. How often throughout the world people gladly embrace my teachings as being highly moralistic and the most perfectly formulated guidelines to good behavior and daily living. However, they add quickly that the stories of miracles should be discounted since such aberrations of natural laws of the universe are not possible. This type of thought is building barriers to the future progress in spiritual, scientific development of which the human mind is capable. In fact, I did not come to earth to introduce a new religion or higher moral code than that given by Moses in the Ten Commandments. My purpose was to bring a new perception of God as Creator and understanding of existence itself. Out of that knowledge would come a new way of life. The correct attitude towards my mission on earth in this third millennium is to acknowledge that the miracles I performed are beyond the capabilities of the average human being at this time. However, such miracles were examples of what can be achieved in the future when people's minds are fully imbued with the true knowledge of existence and are also, through faith, meditation, and prayer, fully attuned to and imbued with universal life, love, consciousness. Number 5. Walking on the water. Was it really true I walked on water when my disciples boarded a boat to cross the lake? If you have read the biblical account of this incident, you will realize that the disciples had left me behind. I yearned for an opportunity to withdraw from all human contact, retire to the hills, and once more enter into a profound meditation to allow my consciousness to merge into the universal dimension of God consciousness. Whilst in this spiritual state transcending human consciousness, all awareness of physicality disappeared, and ecstatically I was lifted into the universal stream of life and knew that the universal life was all. Life was the reality of my beingness, and all else were but temporary changing appearances of universal life made visible. I knew, I felt, I was life itself, and as I slipped beyond earthly consciousness into the universal life consciousness, the laws governing my physical body, my physical being were transcended and no longer applied to the flesh and blood of my human body. I longed to move about in this new transcended state and found myself floating out of my cave. I could see my disciples on the lake and knew they were in distress. Effortlessly, I floated down over the hill towards the shore, and as I began to regain contact with my normal human concerns, in this case my disciples, I found myself coming to rest on the waters. However, I was still in that condition where I realized fully that I, myself, was life individualized, and therefore my body was suffused with life power which continued to lighten and transform the atomic structure of my physical state. You must understand that hearing and thinking in the human consciousness state and the ascension into the transcendent realization of universal life, when the personal consciousness is now withdrawn from the bodily condition and wholly merged in universal Father consciousness, belong to two entirely different dimensions of being. The human consciousness can receive inspiration from the universal Father consciousness, but the inspiration received mingles with the human condition and is frequently misinterpreted according to the store of knowledge already controlling the brain and therefore the mental processes themselves. Unfortunately, the inspiration you receive is contaminated and distorted by your present strongly maintained beliefs, whereas the transcendent perceptual and realization state rises out of, emerges from the physical condition. The brain is no longer in control. It no longer has any influence on the transcendent perceptual state which is truth itself. It is no longer controlled or affected by human belief. It is in a state of what really is, back of visible manifestation and existence, instead of in the human dimension of what it believes existence to be. It is in the transcendent state of consciousness that miracles are but normal working of universal law. Before I continue with this account of my life on earth, I want to stress again that everything in the universe is a particular and individualized state of consciousness made visible. I have had to descend from my present state of consciousness of universal love in order to experience again my life on earth, which remains indelibly imprinted within the consciousness energy of the world itself, dating back to the time of its moment of creation. You must understand that when I left my body in Palestine, I left everything pertaining to that life behind me. I had fulfilled my mission. Therefore, when I died on the cross, I was set free. I was lifted into glorious light to partake of that light, to be the light and rejoice in the light which is universal love, life, beauty, harmony, joy, and rapture. Moving between different levels of consciousness is no easy or pleasant assignment. It is only because my mission on earth was not completed when I died in Palestine that I now return to help you prepare to enter a new age, a new phase of individualized existence on earth. You may gain some understanding of what I mean by the discomfort of this enterprise when you remember the times you have recalled some deep sadness in your life and you find yourself reacting with almost the same degree of tension and emotional stress as you did when the sadness actually took place. Reflecting on past suffering and sorrow will make you want to cry. You will feel a return of the original depression and anguish as you relive that time in your imagination. You may want to withdraw from people because your consciousness has now descended from your former state of happy, peaceful equilibrium to experience, yet again, the lowered consciousness vibrations and consciousness forms you created at the initial time of your suffering. Changing moods indicates a change in your consciousness energies. A lift in your consciousness vibration gives you a physical, emotional, and mental lift, making you feel happy. A drop in your consciousness energies will depress the functioning of your entire system, and you will feel the onset of depression, or at the very least, a drop from the former buoyancy you were enjoying. I am describing for you a fact of existence. Your entire universe manifests the differing frequencies of vibrations of consciousness energy particles. As these frequencies move up or down from one level to another, so do the visible and physical structures manifest differing levels of energy, and there is a change of mental patterns and emotions and appearance. that's all for today. Thank you. God bless. I love you. See you tomorrow.